Loneliness, silence, anxiety. Too many men are carrying it alone. I'm Jack Starr, powerlifter, personal trainer, aerialist, and ex private investigator, and this is The Other Side of Tough. We're rewriting manhood one conversation at a time. And today, my guest is a physical therapist, a strength coach, powerlifter, clinical athlete provider, entrepreneur, and inspirational speaker who believes that you're not done yet. We got Jared Maynard here. Thank you and welcome to the show, Jared.
What's up, Jack? Thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate your time. I'm excited for what we're about to get into.
Great. And first I want to just start off with how I know you off social media. I saw that you were coaching. It was a few years ago. One of your athletes to a world record. I think she was a masters athlete. Was she from Sweden?
Yeah, that would have been Minna from Finland. Yeah.
Finland,
Yeah.
yeah, and that her story is incredibly inspirational, and I saw how you coached her, and so we kind of connected through that, and we've always had great conversations. And then one day, I saw that you were in the hospital,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, it's not too bad. I was like, okay, that's good, and then your wife came on,
Mhm.
and she said, I'm running the social media thing here because like Jared's in a really bad way. If you could send your support and love to him, and I was freaked out, because you're such a good guy, and I was sending prayers to you and your family too, because I
Thank you.
couldn't imagine what they were going through. Um, but then and I saw your condition, I saw the pictures of your condition, and you were at the brink of death, and it
Yeah.
looked it, and you lost, it was scary. And then a year later you're back competing in powerlifting. You're strong, you're resilient. Tell me about your story. Tell me about how you got into helping other athletes and coaching, and how you survived this. It is HLH, correct?
You got it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to tell us all about that.
First, I got to say thank you for the love and the prayers because we needed them then, and I'll never say no to some prayers being sent up. Um, so my story really starts back a long time before HLH. I grew up as a fat kid.
Hmm.
And the other kids at school made sure I knew that I was a fat kid, at least a handful of them. They made fun of me when we were both in class eating lunch, out at recess. I was the kid who was picked last for teams when it was, either we were playing sports at recess or in gym class. And the question in my mind as they were picking teams was like, am I going to be last or second last?
Hmm.
Do they like me less than or more than that other kid that I know they don't like? Which I couldn't have told you in these words at the time. I was in third grade. Um, but that constant rejection, uh, it told me how other people saw me and what my place in the world and the social hierarchy was. That they didn't want me. I wasn't wanted. I wasn't accepted or needed. And I, I, I think that when you're exposed to that, especially as a young person, like you can't help but accept that.
And those are the formative years.
Yeah,
Those are the years where our psyche is really created.
yeah,
And I definitely empathize with your story because I was the fat kid too, and I was picked on. And so, I went through that kind of rejection also, and it has an effect on your life. And one thing that got me really into building my body and getting stronger and that sort of thing is not that I'm ashameful of who that kid was, but
mhm,
I want to be the man that I never had to step in and protect
yes.
that kid.
Uh, Exactly that. I can't remember why, but recently I wrote down that I am working, not even I'm working. I can say honestly that I am the man now that younger Jared needed in his life in some way, shape, or form. And I'm grateful to say that. It's taken work and I'm still working at it. And,
Mhm.
you know, I work at it for myself and most especially for my wife and for my daughters.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're exactly right about those formative years where that was the story I was being told. I accepted it as true. And because I was rejected constantly and I got tired of being rejected, I just hid. I just figured if I was always going to be excluded or picked last with around the other kids, I'm just not going to be around the other kids.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful summer days when every other kid would have been outside playing ball hockey or doing something that kids do in the neighborhood. I was in my parents' basement just watching TV because the TV didn't judge you. The TV
Mm-hmm.
didn't make fun of your weight. TV was always there.
Yeah.
And my parents saw this, and they wanted to intervene somehow. So they tried to find an activity or a sport that I would take to, and we tried a whole bunch. We tried tennis, we tried basketball, we tried t-ball. Nothing really stuck. The furthest that I got would have been a season of basketball, which I finished it. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't good. Definitely wasn't one of the more talented players on the team. And it wasn't until we found Kung Fu that things changed. And it could have been just because I grew up with the Saturday morning infomercials for Taibo. You remember those?
Oh, hell yeah, I do.
Billy Blanks, man. I guilted my dad into buying them. I used the DVD or the VHSs. Yeah, they were VHSs once and then didn't again. Sorry, Dad.
That Billy Blanks is still in amazing shape even today, which is wild to me.
Man, the dude seems like a legend.
Yeah.
So it could have been that. It could have been the fact that I grew up watching Power Rangers and wanted to be the Red Ranger, the original one.
I was in love with what's her name, the Pink
Kimberly.
Ranger.
Everybody was. Everybody was. I'm trying to think of the actress's name.
Yeah, she's beautiful. She is great.
She is. So one way or another, Kung Fu was like, whoa, this seems interesting. And I went there and I was still the fat kid, but I wasn't excluded. Now I was welcomed in, and even though I was starting as a white belt at the bottom of the skill list, everybody who showed up from different walks of life, and all these kids are just trying to be better. And we had a code or a creed that we recited before every class. I couldn't recite it now, but it had to do with integrity, honor, discipline, consistency, teamwork, all these things that for me as how old would I have been? 11, 12? As 11 or 12-year-old boy, I don't care about that. I want to punch people, and I learned how, which was really transformative, because going from that place of being helpless and at the bottom of that social totem pole to now having the skills and the knowledge that I can protect myself if needed, that on its own was like getting a hit of a drug in the best way. And then the things that I didn't know I needed, the integrity, the discipline, the teamwork, the consistency, that started to mold me internally and externally. And this is where my body started to change. It helped that I hit a growth spurt. But between that and, just using my body in that particular way, I grew, I became stronger. I was invited into these higher level classes where now I was on the demonstration team, where we'd go around to malls and parks and use our weapons and advanced forms to try to get
blocks.
Exactly that too, which is great. Wooden blocks, cement blocks. So that contrast between being the rejected kid nobody wanted on their team to now being esteemed and asked to be part of the team that they would use to make other people want to join our community was incredible. So that was the first taste of confidence, my first, more formal connection with some sort of physical art. And then I did that for 3 years. I stopped rather unceremoniously. And then the next thing was football. So we watched Remember the Titans.
Great movie.
I can quote it word for word in most scenes. And we had to stop the game sequences about every 5 minutes because my dad was the only one who had played. and the only one who knew the rules. So we'd be watching it and have to pause and be like, Dad, are we happy? What just happened? Can you explain this to us?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of watching that movie the first time, I was like, I need to play this. This seems fun. And my dad, God bless him, he had played football in high school. He was quite good. So he went, found a summer camp, signed me up. And then after the summer camp, I went up for the school team, played for 3 seasons, and I started in every game in all 3 seasons. Nice. I was not a good player, though. Couldn't catch a pass to save my life, bro. But I was a tight end. Tight end and slot back.
You had some blocking too. You could at least block, right?
I could block. I could block, and golly, Jack, I put my heart into every block.
There we go.
But yeah, another case of it's a different thing. Martial arts is individual, but in a group setting. Now we are squarely in team sports. And again, I'm not good. Certainly not by this talent pool that was there, but I was part of the team. I was able to start and had this outlet. And that also ended up being really developmental for me. But this is where lifting comes into the picture.
Okay.
And how it ties into HLH. Between my junior and senior year, the coaches pretty well knew who was coming up for the team the following season. So at the end of the school year, they took us all out for fitness testing. Mm-hmm. Their only rule was, we're going to test you on all these things, your push-ups, your pull-ups, your 100-meter sprints. And when you come back for summer training, if you are better, you get to play. Didn't care about how much.
Okay.
We didn't have a formal S&C or strength conditioning program. It was just, you got to train to show that you want it. And if you want it, you get to play.
Okay.
So I don't remember how I did beyond, I got a whopping single pull-up. And then I started lifting weights in my parents' basement that summer to get bigger and stronger for football. And my parents had some free weights. They had some machines. They had an old bodybuilding book called Body for Life by Bill Phillips.
Okay.
My dad showed me the ropes, and I was training that summer. And that's where I got a different taste of that confidence now in this very individual setting where it's just me. I got to show up. I got to put the work in. And when I do, now I get to see like, okay, I'm lifting more weight. This is feeling easier. I'm starting to notice some muscle come through. And fast forward through the last season, we finished up, and now I need something to fill 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, because we're not practicing anymore. That's where the gym stayed. So I'm training through undergrad, which saw me train for more aesthetics. You know, I wanted to be more confident, wanted to look like I lift, wanted to attract some girls. It was questionably effective at attracting said girls, but anyway.
I always find, to pause you there,
yeah,
it's funny because, like, a lot of guys go ahead and they lift for the aesthetic to, like, get girls, but they usually end up with the
attracting
aesthetic
guys.
Other guys coming up to them and being like, dude, you look great, dude. I want to be just like you. Like, tell me what you're eating. Tell me what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, man, this didn't work out like I planned.
Nope. That's been my experience, man. I mean, I see the odd comment, when you see a viral post commenting on precisely that dynamic, you get some girls commenting like, we like it too, which is great. My experience has been far more often guys are coming up, hey bro, you train, what you training, you look good, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So that was me all through undergrad, and then this would have been up through 2011, 2012, which you might remember, but YouTube fitness and particularly natural bodybuilding was having like a renaissance. So people like Omar Isuf, 3DMJ, Matt Ogus, Chris Jones, like I watched all their stuff and I wanted to do that. So train for natural bodybuilding, sign on with a coach. And that, it was a combination of a few things. One is nobody, my coach included, nobody asked why I wanted to compete. And there was no screening for what ended up becoming increasingly obvious were perfectionistic tendencies and unnoticed and certainly unmanaged like anxiety type symptoms or manifestations. This also was in the transition point from undergrad, then a gap year, and then the beginning of physical therapy school.
Okay.
So crash course as far as schooling, hyper competitive program, high standards, all of these things. So with all of that, um, it led to a destructive cycle of binge eating, where because the nature of getting super lean, and I was 10% or so, I would have said sub 10%, but with better research as far as body fat percentages, probably was around 10. Um, when you get leaner, your body fights you.
Mm-hmm.
And only naturally do you want more food. And then if you find comfort in eating, as most of us do to some degree, when you've got higher anxiety, when you've got these things going on and you're legitimately hungry, it can lead to what it did for me, which is I'd eat a bunch, feel super guilty, tell my coach and try to make up that ground. And another thing that I wouldn't have said then, didn't know it was true, but it obviously happened, is I found my self-worth in how lean I was and how other people perceived me as far as my
Mm-hmm.
body image.
And I think one thing that people don't understand about bodybuilding and bodybuilders is they don't look like that, chiseled aesthetic like all year round. You can't sustain that. It's an unsustainable thing. And that's why bodybuilding is something that should be taken very seriously health wise, is because you're doing unnatural things with your diet and your body, from bulking up to cutting massive weight in like a short a period of time that your body and your hormones can't regulate. And so things like depression, anxiety are 10 times stronger because of this, and how unregulated your hormones are from dropping and gaining weight from time to time. I just wanted to make that clear for the audience, to show how intense that bodybuilding regimen is.
It can't, yeah, absolutely right. And for anybody who's interested, there's a really helpful video by Jeff Nippard that came out just last week showing what different levels of body fat percentage look like.
I saw that. Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. And
Mm-hmm.
particularly in terms of the honest reflection, and then also what you said around how as you get to these very, very lean body fat digits, it affects everything hormonally and all of that. So that was the case for me. And through this binge cycle, my coach was exceedingly unhelpful. He responded very negatively, and at the end of it, he blamed me for it. He
Was
said,
that
uh,
post that I saw on your
"That was the
social
one."
media? Can I tell you how angry, as a personal trainer myself that deals with clients who deal with weight issues? I deal with clients who are over 400 pounds,
Mhm.
and it takes enough bravery just to step into and just to try things and just to do things. And if I ever spoke to any of my clients like that, I would have the biggest veil of shame over me, as I should,
Yep.
because the things that he said to you were awful. I think he called you. Did he call you a pig?
Yes.
That's disgusting.
It was.
And there's so many of these toxic coaches out there, and I mean that's part of the reason I brought you on, is because
Mhm.
you're one of the positive ones, and you've obviously taken this experience and used it to spread more of a positive message in fitness that needs to be heard.
I appreciate that. I really do, Jack. And I agree. Um, the toxicity in coaching still exists. I would like to think we've made progress, and I think in some respects we have. But in any discipline, in any field, there are always going to be people who leverage their positions of power very poorly. And I mean, the most charitable explanation you can give is ignorance. And I don't think that holds water if you're in a spot where you have the
You vulnerable,
responsibility to guide people, you know?
especially vulnerable populations. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, you have to be a responsible person.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was completely irresponsible and unprofessional in my absolute opinion.
Well, I share it. And I'm grateful to say I'm good now, but at the time it hurt. And it was another story that I definitely believed, at least to some extent. Here's this renowned coach who's saying, "This is your fault. You don't want to be helped. You love eating like a pig." and fair apologies if this is heavy or triggering for anybody who might have history with this sort of stuff too. So that scarred me.
Yeah.
And this is where I knew my mental health was not good because of all of this. This went down with my coach. I stopped working with him, and it left me listless and kind of lost. Where the last 2 years had been bodybuilding focused, and now what do we do? I wasn't going to stop lifting. Like, I'd been in the gym enough and it become part of what I do and who I am that I'd found enough consistency, and it was an outlet for all of the feelings that I wasn't going to not be there. So that's where I'd known about powerlifting. And that's where powerlifting got to be like a rebound girlfriend, where, now I didn't have to worry about, was I shredded? Because powerlifters don't care about how you look. And, it's much more objective, still some subjectivity, as you would know, but in general, it's, did you squat to depth? Did you touch the bar to your chest and bench it back up? Versus stepping on stage and having somebody say, hey, you're not as lean as his, or he is, or his lats are better than yours. And it gave me another outlet to still pour my perfectionistic tendencies into. Dave Tate brought this up as I talked to him. He was spot on, which is that where I was previously super focused on, did I do my program as I needed to? Did I train hard? Did I hit my macros? And how lean am I? Now the metrics that I'm tracking are, did I hit my program? Did I train hard? Did I increase weight? And am I progressing that way? So there was still more, I'm going to use the word more healing and understanding for me to do on the mental side, and what my patterns were and how this was serving me. And in the interim, it gave me at least a much less destructive way to pour those neurotic tendencies and that energy into it. So we started off by talking about HLH, and this is how it factors in. Through these years, this would have been probably about 16 years of training or so at the time this happened. I started getting sick. This is around just after New Year's of 2023, and didn't think much of it. My wife and daughters got sick, so it's the time of year.
Okay.
They got better a week later, and I was still getting worse. So then began the next 3 weeks of increasing symptoms, some of which I'd never had before. I had insomnia for the first time in my life, really bad sinus pressures and pain, as well as really bad malaise and flu-like symptoms. Went to my doctor, got checked out, thought it was a sinus infection, got some antibiotics, nasal spray, back home I go. Not touching the symptoms, and it's getting worse. Now my lymph nodes start to swell, where not just like what you're used to when you're sick, but it felt like those topographical maps where you run your fingers over the mountain ranges.
Yeah.
That along my neck and my shoulders.
Oh my goodness.
So it gets to the point where we go to a smaller hospital near where we live. They diagnosed me as having mononucleosis.
Okay.
I'm taken aback. It's the kissing disease that I got made fun of for having. I didn't have it.
You remember mono for sure.
Yeah. I never had it, but my friends made fun of me for supposedly having mono in high school. I'd never had it. My wife hasn't had it. We've been together for a long time.
Yeah.
So it was a mystery, but that's what I had. They gave me some sleeping medication and sent me back home.
Okay.
3 days later, it's January 23rd.
Okay.
5 a.m. We're at the kitchen table, my wife and I. I haven't slept again. And my wife looks at me and she says, "You're yellow."
Oh.
And that's what we said. It's like, this is bad. So we rush. We get my mom to come over, watch our daughters. And we have to go to the further away but larger hospital because we knew we needed more guns in the arsenal. I just told you my story with training and activity. I've been active for a long time at this point.
Yeah.
Competitive powerlifter since 2016. I'm used to trusting my body to be able to do some cool things. The walk from the van to the entrance of the ER was probably about 20 feet.
Okay.
I really didn't know if I was going to make it.
Wow.
We get in, nurse takes my blood pressure and pulse. My pulse is up around 200.
Wow.
Blood pressure spiked. I tell the registration nurse I'm going to pass out, and I damn near do.
Oh no.
Was admitted that day, and over the next 6 days began this frantic rush between all of the doctors, nurses, and my family, my wife and my parents, who dropped everything and came running to figure out what on earth is happening here, because nobody knew to start. My wife told me that the scariest moment of her life, bar none, was one of those first few days when I was admitted, and she saw her big, strong husband. You know, I stand 6 feet. I was 194 pounds at the time. She saw her big, strong husband so helpless in the bed that he couldn't stand up and go to the bathroom on his own. Didn't know what day it was, didn't know what time it was, could barely speak coherently. And she had no idea why or if I was going to be okay. She didn't know how she's going to now tell our 3 little girls that daddy's not coming home and we don't know if he will or when. So through those 6 days, blood test after blood test, image after image, we finally land on the diagnosis of HLH, which stands for hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis.
Okay.
It's a rare hyperinflammatory disease. It's not a true autoimmune condition, but it can be caused a few different ways, either genetically or because of cancer, an infection, or another autoimmune disease. Mine was caused by a virus. It was influenza A when I started to feel sick after New Year's, which led to mononucleosis, or triggered the Epstein-Barr virus, which
Okay.
led to mononucleosis,
Uh-huh.
and then created this immune system storm where my body's immune system started attacking healthy cells.
Oh wow.
HLH's mortality rate is anywhere from 50 to 75%.
Oh my God.
So optimistically, I had a coin flip chance of making it back home to my wife and my daughters. And that 6th day, I believe it was the 6th, was the night that they put me on life support in the ICU. And the nurse told my wife, like, you can't be alone tonight. You need to call somebody. And treatment is brutal for HLH. The fact that I'm on life support, I was there because my kidneys had failed. My yellow skin from the very beginning, that was my liver that had failed.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Whenever that skin turns yellow, that's signs of liver failure.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. That jaundice. So my spleen was massively enlarged, and the spleen is the largest immune gland in the body. I had a ventilator put down my throat because my blood oxygen was plummeting. And treatment for HLH, again, is brutal. It involves chemotherapy.
Wow.
The thing about it, for me at least, is that I was so frail and my body was so ravaged by the HLH and the inflammation that's just running absolutely rampant that the poison, which is what chemo is, thank God we have it, but it is poison and it's brutal.
Yeah.
I couldn't receive the full doses of that I needed because my body wouldn't handle it.
Oh my goodness.
So this began a day by day and sometimes hour by hour decision between my doctors and the pharmacists about how much of the medicine that I needed to have a chance to live could I receive and not die right then and there.
Wow.
I'm heavily sedated. I'm not conscious during this time. And through all this, like, I'm still getting worse very quickly. They give me all the treatments they can. They're trying to fight off the infections that naturally come when you're spending time in an ICU and your immune system's shot. And the last treatment that they have is, this monoclonal antibody.
Okay.
And they give it, and I'm still getting worse.
Oh man.
So my hematologist, she headed up my medical team, and she is an absolutely incredible doctor and human being. She told my parents, who were on shift, because my wife and my parents would trade off every 12-hour shift. They told them that there's nothing else we can do here, and you should get ready to start saying goodbye this week.
Did you know that? Did you know that they told your family that?
I found out about it after.
Okay, you found out after.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, at this point, I'm obvious spoiler for anybody who hasn't clued in yet. I didn't die.
Yeah.
But all I can tell you is that there was a lot of prayer being offered, yourself included there. And I started to stabilize after the doctor said, hey, look, we're starting to keep him comfortable, and we're talking end of life stuff. So I started to stabilize. I had no business doing so. And it's not like I suddenly got better and everyone clapped. I started coming out of the death spiral. And when I stabilized enough that they could take me off of sedation, I was waking up in somebody else's body entirely. I couldn't speak because now the ventilator was through my throat.
Yeah.
Trach. I was physically strapped to the bed because they needed to strap me down for my own safety, so I didn't pull out my tubes. I walked into the hospital at about 194 pounds. Now, because I couldn't eat through those 5 weeks of life support, they did try to give me nutrition through an NG tube down in my stomach. Because the inflammation was just so rampant, I couldn't absorb it. So my body had to use the muscle that I had built, starting in the basement to get better for football.
Yeah.
Then continuing through university, and then training for bodybuilding, and then training for powerlifting. All of that muscle was part of what bought me time. So when I woke up, I was about 150 pounds. 40 pounds of muscle is what I'd lost.
Wow.
So when people, I don't have a monopoly on hopelessness and helplessness, but that absolutely was helpless, where I needed to rely on other people for literally everything. I couldn't wash myself. I couldn't speak. I couldn't write because I had tremors in my hands. If my life depended on getting up out of bed, call it. There was no chance. I couldn't sit up. I certainly couldn't walk. So this is the point where I have to start deciding what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to sit here, Jack, and be pretending that like, and then I decided I was going to fight and I crushed it. Yeah. I did decide that the fact that I wasn't dead meant that I was going to do everything that I possibly could to get back home to my wife and my family. I made that decision once, and I also had to make it over and over again.
Every day.
Every day. Sometimes hour by hour. Because there were days where I did crush it. My speech language pathologist came through and I chewed ice chips and retrained my esophageal muscles because like any other muscle, when you don't use them for 5 weeks, they atrophy.
Yeah.
And then you can't eat or drink because you'll aspirate and have pneumonia and possibly die.
Wow.
So you chew ice chips and you practice your swallowing.
Mm-hmm.
You do PT, which is sitting up in bed and trying not to pass out. You stand up for all of 5 seconds and then you sit back down. You try to do heel raises and your body does not respond at all. So you practice that and you learn to take one step, single solitary step, and then it's two, and then it's three. And this is what you do day to day or day after day. And then there were the days where I spiked fevers, my body, which is still frail, absolutely quits on me. There are days where the depression was just so bad that I couldn't get up, I couldn't go. I started taking antidepressants for a time at this point in time because I was so homesick and so traumatized
Yeah.
by all of this. So it was day by day and sometimes hour by hour,
Mm-hmm.
and stacking up these little moments of resolve, of walking, of using, you know, 2 pound weight to work my arms, of walking through the hospital unit with my PT using a walker, the same stuff that I trained in PT school to help other people do. Now I'm the one who has to do it. And 3.5 months was the length of time I was in the hospital for. When I left to go home, it was May 1st of 2023. I was not good. I was stable enough to go home, but I wasn't good. I was still bedbound. And more of that journey continued of the physical stuff. But that's also where I started to have to really wrestle with the grief,
Mm-hmm.
the loss, you know. I was angry at God.
Yeah.
It was the why me?
Mm-hmm.
Did I not pray enough? Was I not good enough? It was the thinking of the story of Job,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to curse God and die.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrestling with I don't want to be angry at you, God, but I am. And
Yeah.
who am I now? I'm still alive. I still have the same name. I still have my family, but I'm not able to show up as the father, as the husband, as the physiotherapist, the business owner, these things that I had identified with and been proud of.
Yeah.
Um,
Hard for.
yeah. Another thing, and I want your input on this particularly,
Mm-hmm.
is that I think I know for me as a man, and particularly for me personally,
Yeah.
recovering perfectionist, oldest of 5 kids, the one who always had the good grades, who always had it together, who thrived on control. When I couldn't control it, and when I couldn't be the helper, but I had to receive the help, that was a head trip, bro.
Mm.
And I think that's probably hard for a lot of us as men.
Yes. 100%. And I think that is, talking about masculinity and, the crisis that there is in masculinity in men. I think that's part of the problem is that we're taught not to seek help. We're taught not to ask for help. We're taught that that's weakness. In fact, when that really is, a source of strength, is that community, is that, people coming out and helping you when you are at your lowest and being able to ask for that help. And that's why suicides among men are 4 times greater than they are women, because men are too afraid to go out and ask for help, to talk to someone, to be like, you know what, I'm in a really bad place and I'm lost, I'm confused, and I just don't think I can take this anymore. I was at that point. And God, I looked at that as a check engine light for my mental health and awareness. And I said, you know what, there's something that needs to be done. I need help. And so I went to a therapist. But I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think every man feels that pressure when they feel helpless,
Yeah.
because that's what we're told our identity is, to be the protectors, to be the doers, and especially if you're a father, you're a husband, you're a business, you have clients, and that's all you do is you pour into, and now you can't do that, and now you have to ask for that same help, to be
Yep.
carried. Yeah, I couldn't imagine how that felt for you.
I mean, you mentioned therapy, and I'd worked with a counselor. This would have been the year prior, actually, for something different, and that was definitely a big step forward and a leap for me, which took courage, because for me, maybe it was the same for you, maybe it's the same for other men out there. You wrestle with the inner dialogue of, am I weak for looking for help?
Yeah.
Am I just being a pussy, or whatever the messaging is there? And I worked with the counselor. It was easily one of the best things I've ever done for myself in my life, and not just for myself, but for my family. And in bed at home for this period of time, and we're talking May till July, maybe into August, I reached back out to my counselor and started to work through the grief and the
Mhm.
loss.
Yeah,
And there was a lot to unpack there.
I'm sure.
Um, and yeah, I mean, my wife, who had been and is there through all of it, she was the one who held it together at home. She was a single mom overnight. She was the one who helped to literally change my diapers and wipe my bum because I couldn't control my bowels. I couldn't control my bodily functions. And she was one of the people who did that. She was the one who helped change my bandages at home because I had many wounds that needed help in healing. And I'm sitting there, lying there, looking at this woman, this long suffering woman who, though I know she is dog tired,
Mm-hmm.
with a smile, she will, she did do darn near anything that I asked her to. And I felt guilty.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a burden.
Yeah.
And, we can talk about it if we want, and if we have time. I've had to wrestle with that from a different angle now, from a disability standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
because I have a different rare condition. I'm 2 for 2 on the rare
No.
disease front, um, which existed before. It's genetic, but it's called choroideremia. So it's a progressive degenerative retinal disease that has no cure, and it blinds you.
Mm-hmm.
So my point of bringing it up is I'm now at the point of legal blindness, and that will continue at an unknown rate. So when it comes to disability, which is a broad term, many different kinds of disability, a broad spectrum, it affects people differently. So I'm not speaking for anybody, for everybody with a disability.
Yeah.
But often when you have one, now you have to deal with the fear of being a burden.
Mm-hmm.
The term ableism, I'm sitting with that, and I have my thoughts on it. But the definition of ableism that I find the most useful is the thoughts and behaviors that imply or explicitly act as if someone with a disability is worth less than somebody who does not have one. And again, it's a larger conversation, but when it comes to this feeling of, am I a burden on society? Am I a burden on my wife? Am I a burden to ask for help or to express what my needs are? When, like you said, as a man, we are by and large told, men don't cry, keep it together, keep pushing through, stiff upper lip, whatever the phrasing is. It is very difficult, and it has been for me. Where I'm at with it now is that, well, I'm going back to one of my mentors asked me that if the roles were reversed and my wife was the one who needed help,
Mm-hmm.
would you think for a second longer about helping her?
Yeah.
And my answer was no. My mentor said, then let yourself receive love.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Tall order sometimes for us as men, and it has been for me.
I tell my personal training clients something very similar to that. And it's when they do the negative talk to themselves and they're like, oh, I sucked at that, I did that. And I'm like, okay, now think of your best friend. Think of someone
Yes.
you love, your mother. I was like, would you tell them that? And it's like, okay, then love yourself as much as that. You
Yeah.
know, treat yourself with that same love because you know that they would not talk about you like that.
Yes.
So don't talk about yourself like that.
I like that a lot. So yeah, with that in mind, I did my best to let myself receive love as readily as I tried to show it, and showed it then and still do now. So the journey continued with more physical rehab, more emotional and mental rehab. And little by little, the exercises like doing sit to stands at the edge of my bed and using my yellow TheraBand for my hip exercises, that then turned into some more yellow TheraBand exercises, but this time in my home gym, and some very light goblet squats, which then turned into doing some box squats with my safety bar, doing some feet up bench press with the empty barbell. And Jack, I've never been a great bencher. I've never been a great power lifter by the numbers, period. But I got long arms, which are great for deadlifts, not so great for bench press. So even with that, though, I mean, going from lifting hundreds of pounds to 45 and 55 with my wife there to make sure I didn't die. Like that was the head trip that I had to keep wrestling through. And bit by bit, the rehab, the very minimal rehab, turned into modified training. And then modified training turned into just training. And it was early 2024 where I started to feel good enough, not all the way back. I wasn't myself yet. I wouldn't have told you that then.
Yeah.
But good enough to start thinking about, let's look at some meets. Let's just see what happens. And the first meet was May 25th of 2024. It was just over a year after leaving the hospital. And my wife and my daughters and my parents, all of whom had seen me at my worst, were in the crowd that day.
Oh wow, what a moment.
I heard, as I was coming up for my second squat, the announcer took the microphone and stuck it in front of one of my daughter's faces. So all I heard was, "Go, Dad, go!"
Oh my gosh. Like,
You don't.
I'm not gonna cry right now. I'm not gonna cry.
I mean,
That-
I have many a time.
yeah.
I was heavily caffeinated, but hearing your daughter cheer for you, like
Oh,
you don't need more caffeine. I tell you what.
yeah. Yeah.
So I went 9 for 9 that day,
Beautiful.
and I set a lifetime deadlift PR of 501.
Way to go. Way to fucking go, man. That's amazing.
Thank you, man. And
That's
then
like one of the best feelings ever is to come back, you know, like just the power of hitting a PR after going through all of that. You know, imagine, like if you didn't go through all that and you hit like 500 pounds, that'd be great. But add all that fight and man, your emotions must have been like a volcano.
they were, man, and the thing at the forefront of the volcano was gratitude. I competed a bunch of times before, and this time, this meet was the most relaxed and also the most fun that I had had at a meet so far,
Awesome.
where it really didn't matter how the day was because
You were there. You were fucking.
yeah, and I shouldn't have been by all accounts.
Yeah.
And not only could my my wife and my parents and my daughters see that and be part of it, but all of the people from near and far who had offered prayers, who had brought food to my family when I was in the hospital, who had donated money, donated blood, donated plasma, did anything to try to support. Whether they saw it this way or not, I definitely viewed whatever happened on the platform as much of a victory for them and a thank you to them as I possibly could give. Um, it was incredible.
That is
And just to add a cherry on top, 3 months later, I competed again and pulled another lifetime PR of a deadlift of 507.
nice. Good
So
job. Great.
thank you,
Oh,
man.
story's still continuing. And the great thing about all of this too is that I'm sure your clients see this, and I'm sure that their bond to you has become even more stronger, and that they trust you even more, and that when they go through something, an injury, something, and you tell them trust the process, they're going to take your word that much more because they know what you've been through.
You're right, and I'm grateful for that. It's that's been one of the best things that's come from this, which is, two parts of it. One is the trust or the authority, if you want to use that word, of like, hey, look, I may not know exactly what you're going through right now in this particular circumstance,
Yeah.
but it sounds like you feel this, this, and this.
Hmm.
And if that's true, I can relate.
Yeah.
And the path forward is going to not be linear like we want it to be, but I believe it's going to serve you and help you do this, this, and this. And I get to be most of the time these days for my clients that I work with one-on-one. It's a silent example. I don't often bring up my story because I don't find a lot of need to, but
Yeah.
it is an example.
Yeah.
Um, and then for, I do obviously include my story in my social media content and things I talk about.
It's inspired me. I'm telling you, like,
Thank you.
I got through. I was going through an injury, and it's nothing compared to anything you went through. I mean, I just had like a herniated disc, and
Mm,
I had some sciatica running, and it clipped. I had to cut out of a meet, but
mm,
I thought about people like you, and I thought about
mm,
that, and I was like, you know what? They came back. They
mm.
did. So it's possible. And like even as dark as this moment is for me right now, like I just, people have gone through a lot worse,
Mm.
and you can do it too. So it inspired me. Like your story has really inspired me, and that's why I invited you here to talk about it, because it is a story that needs to be heard. Because you are a great example of a man, and this is what this podcast is about. It's about being better men, finding the way to be better men, and a lot of men do suffer, and a lot of men do go through things,
Mm.
but it's being vulnerable and being like, this sucks. This
Yeah.
is painful. I will need help, but I'm
Yes.
going to get through this. I'm going to get help, but with a plan to get through. And you did that.
Mm.
And, I'm proud of you, brother. Like, I've always followed you on social media, and just the road that you've traveled. Like, that's, you are a high example of a man.
Thank you, Jack. That means a lot, man.
Mhm.
I'm grateful that my story could impact you and inspire you, and I'm grateful to have your friendship and your time for this conversation here. And um, yeah, I mean that's really the point for me these days, where my belief, my conviction is that I've gone through this. I really believe that God has a purpose and a plan,
Yeah.
and um, I'm here, and it'd be straight up irresponsible of me if I didn't try to use what I have, these experiences and these perspectives that I know beyond the shadow of a doubt can and do help people, even though it doesn't suddenly make the hard things that people are going through not be hard. But it can be something as simple, not easy, but as simple as knowing that you're not alone going through the suck.
Hmm. Yeah.
And to what you said before about clients, the other side of how how this has helped is empathy,
Hmm.
where people people know, but they could tell you better than I could, but I think they can sense and hear that when they're telling me about what they're going through, their struggles, how they feel, there's just more of you can tell when someone else has been through something.
Hmm.
There's a different energy,
Yeah.
and usually more of a
Authenticity.
authenticity, and yeah, you get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's been very powerful for relationship building, and I'm grateful for it.
Awesome, man. I usually have each one of my guests, I tell them one thing I appreciate about them. And I mean, I already said that you're a great example as a man, but I appreciate your bravery and your vulnerability and your honesty with me today and telling this story
Mm.
because, I can tell that, that the pain that you still feel from it,
Yeah.
and to open those wounds and to share them with an audience, I think is so important because other men need to hear this. Other men need to know that, as dark as the night gets, it needs to get that dark to really appreciate the light. And you're a light that's burning bright. And I see it on social media. And like I said, you inspired me. So and I'm getting out of the other end of my injury.
Good.
So yeah, I just really appreciate you and your time, and I'm praying for you for your recovery to continue to hit more PRs and meets, and I'm going to keep following your story.
Well, I appreciate all of that, Jack. Thank you so much for everything. And just before I forget, I'm so glad that you're coming out the other side of your injury. I'm stoked for you too.
Appreciate
Uh,
it.
yeah, brother. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Well, that's it for today's episode of The Other Side of Tough. I'm Jack Starr, reminding you that real strength is found on the other side. Catch you next time. Thank you so much, Jared, and have a lovely weekend, brother.
You too. See you, man.
All right. Bye.